welcome back everyone to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. Kevin Horde here.
Lorenzo Fon here.
Hey buddy.
How's it going, man?
Well, you know, it's going. We got another episode of the Clone Wars here. This is 73rd story overall, Season 4, Episode 3. It's titled Prisoners. Original release date looks like it was September 23rd, 2011.
Yep.
Production code 324. Written by Jose Molina. Directed by Danny Keller. That's about all the technical stuff that I got.
Yeah,
this is part 3 of our water war adventure.
Yes.
And up front, I'm going to say this 3-parter feels like it's been dragging on for a long time, man. Feels like we've been talking about this one since last year.
Definitely. Yeah. This it's because we stretch our recordings out a little bit here.
I think that's part of it. But I think even just going, week to week with these, so that may give you a little preview of my overall opinion. But I guess we'll see. But let's hop into this thing. Fortune cookie I've got is crowns are inherited, kingdoms are earned.
I'm going to say Mufasa.
My first note is Game of Thrones reference.
Ah, yes.
And then I wrote down Sheev Palpatine.
Yeah.
That's about the closest thing that I got.
Yeah, I guess. I
don't know, the way that I kind of justified that in my head is that Sheev makes his own luck, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's not worried about, a lineage per se, more so taking what is rightfully his, right?
I understand that.
He creates his own kingdom by force,
right?
Not by the force.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look into that. I dig it.
Yeah, so that came to me right before recording, because other than that, I was like, man, I hope Lorenzo's got something good, because I got nothing.
Nope. Got nothing. Mufasa.
Mufasa on.
I'm amazed there isn't a character already just called like Mu and then Fasa.
Yeah, we do have some interesting names that tend to pop up here in the Clone Wars, and they don't.
Char.
Yeah. Wait. Is Prince Lee Char like named after a Charlie?
Yeah. That's what I always thought, but I don't know. Fasamu. We're going to get a Fasamu alien at some point.
Fasamu.
Yeah, Fasamu, and he's going to have like a big mane of hair.
Yeah, he'd be like a Bothan, probably.
Yeah.
Cool.
Maybe. Yeah.
I'm digging it.
Yeah, beyond that, that's all I got for this quote. What about the newsreel?
Newsreel is pretty much just a straight-up recap of Water War and Gungan Attack.
Yes, it is.
I think at the end of this thing, the only new comment we get is Dooku talking to Riff Tamsin and essentially telling him, by any means necessary, we're going to succeed in our little plan, right? Mm-hmm. So the first official, I guess, scene you would say of this episode is we got a line of prisoners, complete with Anakin, Padme, Kit Fisto, Jar Jar, and they're all kind of being led to, I guess, prison, kinda.
They're just brought before Riff Tamsin, I guess. Like, I don't think they're being brought to prison, at least not where we see them end up. They go into like whatever same chamber that Riff is in, right?
And it's kind of weird because all of this essentially takes place outside. Like, we have abandoned in Water War, we did see like some actual underwater buildings. Mm-hmm. And then I think in Gungan Attack we saw some caves, but this one is pretty much just underwater adventure.
Yeah.
We've just kind of abandoned like the necessity of being in a building, and when we cut from one location to another, it's just assumed that it is in a semi-contained area underwater.
Yeah, it's
so
like
there
a
is
designated space per se, right? Like,
right. There's no official prison or anything. Like these prisoners are just kind of gathered in an area.
yes.
So yeah, we do pan down to Riff Tamson. What he's shit talking to, I guess, Anakin and crew, right? And I think what he says is like, it should have been easier to capture the prince, not you guys. And Anakin backtalks, and he's like, oh, maybe that was our plan. And Riff's like, oh, of course it was. And it's not the best executed of dialogue moments. I don't want to call it contrived. Like it's meant to be like Anakin kind of still engaging, having the upper hand, but just kind of falls flat in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't really do anything to me. It's just kind of there. I can't tell if it's like in the performance or in the pacing or
I think it's a little of
tone.
both.
Yeah. So I agree with you. It feels weird. Like I can't tell the motivation of Anakin. Like if he's just trying to put on a brave face,
or is he just being a dick?
Right. Yeah. So I agree. It's a weird little moment here, especially considering that like Padme is right next to him, also in prison. So it's not really a good time to be cocky.
Right. Everybody is. I mean, everyone is caught except for Prince
Ahsoka.
Charlie, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And Ahsoka, who is with him, and that's where we go next. We cut over to we cut over to the two of them. No, I'm sorry. What happens is that Riff Tamson says something like "rack them up," and then they're put in these. I don't even know what they are. Right, torture devices, containment, something or others. They're not like the jellyfish things that we saw a couple episodes ago, but it's some other type of tentacled, not even creature device that is
There's
meant
some
to like
eels. Yeah.
Oh, is that what it is? Eels?
Yeah. So like there are two different contraptions that 4 go into. So Padme and Jar Jar just get binded. Yeah, manacled. And they're just like in X formation, right? Like 2 arms up, 2 legs out, down, right? Spread out.
Mm-hmm.
Then Kit Fisto and Anakin get put in the middle of like this weird trio column tube of eels. Like it's just 3 eels tied together, and Kit gets put in the middle of 3 of them, and there are 3 more eels, and Anakin's in the middle of the other, and they're sparking just a little bit.
Yeah.
And Riff is basically threatening them, trying to figure out where Prince Lichar is, and they're all
it's
like,
not really like a torture thing, but it's like the threat of torture.
Yeah, like nothing happens yet. It does later, because it's one of those weird things where it's like they've promised a thing, right? Who was it? I think it was like, I don't know if it was like Alfred Hitchcock or somebody, but that they were saying like,
it's Chekhov's gun, right?
Yes. Don't put a gun in the movie unless you're gonna use the fucking gun.
If the gun is on the mantelpiece in Act 1, it needs to be fired in Act 3. Yeah, I kind of saw this a little bit differently. Like, it's like an escalation of tension. Like, each time because they're in the same location, they're detained. But, like, the promise of peril kind of increases. Like, the threat gets a little bit more, and the situation becomes a little bit more intense. But honestly, like, the biggest thing that stuck out to me in this is when Jar Jar is like handcuffed into this thing, the line that he says, and it's supposed to be like Jar Jar speak, but he's complaining. He's like, "Ouch, pinchy grabbing, pinchy." Yeah. Like, I know that like he's being pinched, right? Mm-hmm. Pinchy is a swear word in Spanish.
Oh.
And essentially, like, if this were Spanish, right? Mm-hmm. He'd be saying, like, it's fucking grabbing me, is what he would be saying.
Interesting.
Like, it just stuck out to me. I thought it was funny.
Yeah.
I know it's completely unintentional,
Right.
but I wonder if like native Spanish speakers watching this would pick up on that line, or if it would just cruise right on by. Either way, Anakin's all pissed. We got these electric eels. Tamsin is definitely asking where the prince is. We get some shocking going on, and then we just cut over to the prince and Ahsoka. Lee Char is talking about his father. We got kind of a dialogue-heavy moment here. He's essentially saying that like the Corns and the Moncall used to get along, and then this Carcharodon, which I guess is the shark people species, right, showed up. So Tamsin shows up and kind of screws all that stuff up. So he says that what he needs to do is reunite the Moncall and the Corran, you know, after like one day of quarreling, I suppose.
Right. Yeah.
Ahsoka essentially asks how he's going to do that. And his idea is that since there's Moncall on the planet, there are Corran on the planet, now we have Gungans on the planet, we have all these people that are captured as prisoners, and they outnumber their captors, so all he has to do is essentially give the right pep talk, get everybody on his side, everybody works together, and they can overthrow the droids pretty easily.
Yeah.
So then he decides to do that. He needs to get Captain Akbar. Right?
Yes.
So then, dialogue moment over. We cut over to a holo of Dooku with Tamsin. Do you remember what this Corn guy's name is?
Nasari.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah, Nasari.
Nasari. So yeah, he's kind of not part of this conversation, but witness to the conversation.
Oh, he's just hanging out. There's a lot of over pantomiming that happens with Nasari. We do get some expressions. He does kind of mention that he thinks the plan is kind of escalating too fast or something like that. He thinks Riff is kind of going too far. And then when Riff is talking to Count Dooku, we see a lot of facial pantomiming from Nasari about like his doubt, his growing doubt about how he feels about Riff Tamsin's plan here, right?
Well, I think he also feels deceived, right? Because in his mind, Tamsin came to give the Corns the upper hand, so that the Corns could be in charge and the Moncall would be, you know, number 2 on the totem pole of 2. And I think he says something to the effect of, okay, you know, we got all the Moncall captured, like now it's time for the Corrans to come out on top. And Dooku's like, nope, like that's not the plan. Like that'll come down the line. Like we won the battle, we didn't win the war, buddy. Like we still got a lot to do, and then later you guys gonna have the planet. So he's pissed. And then also Dooku is when talking to Tamsin says something about have your soldiers arrived. Ree is like, what? Soldiers? Like, who would have thought? Like, you came to help us overthrow the establishment, and now you brought soldiers and introduced soldiers into this thing?
Who would have guessed it?
And the soldiers are none other than a bunch of other shark guys.
More shark folk. Yeah.
They
all look exactly the same. Like
they all look exactly the same.
Yeah, like the exact same character models, and we're just meant to believe that they're all different shark people. They swim the same. They make the same noises. They make like a growl, which is weird.
It's terrible.
Like they make a mammalian growl, and it's
horrible.
Yeah,
I do not like it at all. It's one of my least favorite things about this species.
Yeah, nothing about this is exciting to me at all.
There's what, 4 or 5 more guys that show up?
Something.
That's the soldiers that Dooku's talking about. The only reason I bring up the number is because even on Wikipedia, there's only like 3 different Karkadons that are named. It's Tamsin, like 2 other guys. And I guess they have names in this episode. Maybe
I don't know why. They're
I don't even
indistinguishable. Are we sure it's from this series? Like from the series of episodes?
They only show up in like 4 episodes total. So it would be Water War Gungan Attack Prisoners. So these new guys show up in Prisoners, and then there's one other episode with Karkadons in it. And I guess maybe could be from them, and we'll find out a little further down the line. I think that's...
Yeah, if there are 2 of them named here, I could not point out who is who. I couldn't point out... Honestly, you lined them all up, and I couldn't even point out Riff Tamsin to you.
Yeah, my point exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, and also I just thought it was funny that they were referred to as an army, and then a door opens and 4 swim in, and I'm like, oh, well, I mean, you say army, but I see 4 dudes. Like,
it's an army of 4. That's like 4 times as big as the United States Army, which is an army of 1.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Anyway, moving forward, we cut back to Ahsoka and Prince Lichar. They can see like this kind of electro field thing.
Yeah, how does that work underwater, by the way?
How does it not just shock everything?
Yeah, how does that not kill everybody in that water?
I think that you have to touch it. I'm not really sure. Because it's not like if lightning strikes the ocean, like all fish die.
I guess, but I also just feel like the electric... Like, how do you contain the electric currents within an area, though, right? Like, it's one thing to have it
with the little balls
out.
that are floating around.
Sure.
I don't know.
That. Yeah.
At first, I thought it was just like a big force field that would that's what was containing the prisoners, but it turns out that that's not what it is. It's just like, as though it's an entrance to a big cave, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's just kind of like they're hiding around the corner of a rock, and then they swim out, and there's like, then you see these balls, and they swim through it, and then you see like electricity like shooting across and like this big sheet to like deter you from
entering the area.
But there's no determinate like top down left right barriers that they couldn't just like swim around underwater lightning balls,
because they're swimming like near kelp, so like they're near like a natural feature,
right?
You know? But I guess I don't know, I'm imagining it's like keeping a prisoner as you're on the Oregon Trail, I guess. I don't know.
Maybe
you just kind of corral them in an area.
I would expect there to be more of the lightning stuff in it to be like constant, not intermittent. Because this is like intermittent. And since it was so easy for these guys, this pair to swim in, I was thinking, why haven't any of the prisoners escaped? Because when we do get inside, Lichar just kind of swims up to like a bunch of random people, right? Mm-hmm. And then he just like orates his like grand plan of like reuniting Mon Cal. Mm-hmm. And some of the Mon Cal are like, oh, I don't think it's gonna work. Like, we're stuck behind the lightning shield, and what are we gonna do? And then just a clone swims up named Monk.
Yeah, something like that.
I thought it is Monk. It's Monnk. I thought that Ahsoka called him Mark, and I was like, oh, that's like an interesting clone name. Like, hey, my name is Mark.
Straightforward, man. Some clones just like a straightforward name, right?
Right. You know, you got Rex, you got Mark, you got Dodger. Who knows who else? But anyway, this clone swims up and somehow just like knows exactly what they need to do, which is get to Akbar, right? Mm-hmm. So Lichar's like, just trust me, like you'll know when it's ready, and when the time is right, well, I'll attack and everything will be good, and just leaves.
Yep.
So I can just imagine like these prisoners like, man, I hope the prince is like still alive. Oh wait, he's in jail. Like, did you get arrested too? No, I didn't get arrested. I like broke in here, and my plan is to just have everybody attack everybody. Like, can't you just like sneak us out the way that you snuck us in?
Right.
And then he's just like, peace out, see you later.
It's all part of the plan, man.
Yeah, it's something.
It is a weird part of the conversation too, where they're like, "You're a prisoner," and he's like, "No, I'm not a prisoner." It's like, you're in the prison though. I don't. Whatever.
So yeah, we don't get any answers immediately because we cut back over to Anakin and the shocking crew, as I called them. Tamsin is throwing out questions. He's not getting the answers he wants. Everybody's getting shocked. Duke, he explains that Duke wants the prince and wants the prince alive. Then he does that stupid roar thing. Mm-hmm. And what he does to get answers out of Anakin is attack Padme. He does his little mammalian T-Rex roar and bites her helmet, and then it breaks in a completely different spot, and then he swims off and laughs. And so she's got like a little leak, basically. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, now your friend's gonna die, so you need to tell me before her bubble fills up with water.
I do think this was sort of creative, and then something happens in about 2 seconds that like made me question the whole thing and then kind of ruined it.
I do have one question.
Uh-huh.
Is this thing like under pressure? Is it pressurized? Is her suit pressurized?
I mean, I guess because it has to be filled with air, right? I kind of had that thought too. Like,
well, then if you get a hole in it, wouldn't it just, the air would leak out? Like the water wouldn't leak in? Is that how it works?
I think it would go both ways, right?
Okay.
Like, like you put an empty milk jug in a bathtub and you pierce the bottom of it, like.
Yeah, but not if the milk jug's pressurized.
Yeah, that's true.
That's just a milk jug full of air, and then you poke a hole in it, and then eventually the water and the air equalize. But if it's a pressurized unit, then the pressure inside the suit has to equalize down to the point where the water can come in. Like, it's not just going to start leaking in immediately.
I guess. Yeah, that's one of the questions I had, and the fact that even if allowing for a leak in, it's like within 2 seconds that it reaches her chin. Mm-hmm. So it
just fills up
at
like
the neck?
Right.
So I had that question.
Good point.
But yeah, you bring up a good point as well. That I don't know. Depending on the leak, I guess. I don't know.
I'll have to look into like old deep sea diving gear.
Mm-hmm.
Do some research.
Yeah, I feel like leaks
never
can
report
happen,
back.
but yeah, basically, we're gonna forget we asked this question.
Yeah,
but yeah, I had all these questions. Like the idea of a timer and the idea of a leaking helmet as a timer for torture or for information deadline, I think is creative. Mm-hmm. It's just everything about this execution is like, I kind of was just bored.
It's just kind of okay. It happens.
Yeah, it's there. Like nothing about this was thrilling to me.
Right.
As sad as it was. Because leading up to this point, too, the pacing is so weird to me. It's kind of off. Like, we kind of get this back and forth between A plot, B plot is what's happening. Mm-hmm. So we're back in that mode. There's no tension on the Lee Char side of things. Like, there's a building of events.
Kind of.
Sort of. Like, he's trying to he's setting, like, pawns, right? He's setting the chess pieces, right? But that's boring. Like, you don't sit to watch guys just setting up a board. But then you jump to the other side, and because we keep cutting back and forth, like there's no tension there either. There's no rising tension there, you know, because we already know Lee Char is on the other side putting stuff together, right?
Right. Like, I think the tension is supposed to be building with Anakin and crew.
Mm-hmm.
And Tamsin is just kind of walking down the road, like, putting pieces into place. And it's...
And then we have, like, Jar Jar and, like, Kit Fisto also, like, cracking jokes, too, you know? Like, we get, like, at the beginning of the episode, we kind of hopped over it, but we get potentially an Indiana Jones reference where Kit is like, eels, very dangerous. Like, what? Huh? Why? Why is this? And then the thing you said with Jar Jar, it's like, Pinchy. Like,
is Pinchy hurting?
No, no.
Pinchy grabbing.
Like, if this is supposed to be serious, you can't undercut the whole thing with humor, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Which we do get a little humor moment here coming up. So, Padme is at risk of drowning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kit Fisto tells Anakin, quick, put an air bubble around her helmet. We'll just hold it there with the Force. Which they do. And then do they get shocked? They fail somehow.
Yes, I think Anakin gets shocked.
Anakin gets shocked.
Yeah, so then he loses his concentration. And then right at that moment, we get Jar Jar spitting towards the direction of Padme.
Yeah, he just hawks a loogie on her helmet.
Yep.
And then he says
Seals
something
up.
about it being like an old Gungan waterproofing, and that's why they're able to live underwater or something. So their dome cities just made out of loogies.
I think he even said. I think it helps. I think he said that it helps them like breathe underwater too. There's something about
Right.
that biology, and that's how they're able to breathe underwater too. I don't know. I got nothing for you.
I don't know either.
Yeah, but you know, it stops the intake of water. But interestingly enough, when the Jedi made the air bubble, they seem to have been able to extract out the water. So they were water bending, I guess, for a hot second, which I'm not against. I mean, if you have the ability to like manipulate objects, yeah, I guess pulling water out would make sense. But then how does air get replaced back in?
Maybe Padme just drank it.
Oh, so then she's going to be dehydrated in the next, 20 minutes here?
Maybe. Unless she also drinks a little bit of the Jar Jar spit.
Loogie. Yeah. Or are they freshwater? Do we know? Do we know if this is saltwater or freshwater?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
That is a more important question than the deep sea diving question that I proposed earlier.
What's the salinity of this water here?
That one I actually may look into and come back to. I like that question.
So what happens next here? Did we skip over I don't remember if it happened before or after, but
we skipped over Ahsoka and Prince Lee Char meeting up with Akbar.
And also then getting spotted by a droid, correct?
Yep. Get spotted by some spy droid. Akbar looks all sleepy or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know. And then Prince Lee Char gives him his plan about uniting with the Quarrens, and definitely drops the quote unquote bombshell of the fact that Tamsin murdered his father.
Right.
Does he know this for a fact right now, and or do other people not know it?
I think everyone knows it.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think everybody knows it, but they're coming to terms with it still.
Okay.
Right. I don't know how else this would go, but yeah.
So the prince says that they're in need of Nasuri.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Quarren. That's
yes.
Mr. Quarren guy whose name we couldn't remember earlier, right?
Yep.
Or I couldn't remember. Anyway. And then everybody gets arrested. So, yep.
And yeah, Nasiri, again, we keep getting pantomimes of him looking very concerned, outwardly concerned about everything that's happening.
Yeah, I think they try to do like most of the acting in like the tentacles of his face and head.
Yeah, tentacles and like just a lot of looking down.
He's sad.
A lot of looking
sad.
down. He's very, very concerned. I think I just wrote a note that just says Nasiri needs to get his shit together. Is what I've got.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reaction happening from Nasiri, and it's yeah, he's just doing nothing. He's just there.
Yep.
He's just along for the ride. Yep.
Just kind of like when Tamsin is talking to Dooku. He's just like sitting in the side, like in the side wings, chilling. But when everybody gets arrested, Ahsoka pulls out both her lightsabers. Is one of her lightsabers yellow?
One is yellow and shorter, I believe.
Interesting.
I don't know which. I can't remember which one is shorter, but yes, one is I think white and one is yellow, and then one is shorter.
One is green.
One is green. Okay.
One's green and one is yellow.
Okay, it just looks weird in the weird coloring they do to the underwater scenes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but she definitely has a green one, and the other one was like yellow, so maybe green, the yellow and then I was like, maybe it is yellow. Has it been like this for a while?
I think so.
I don't feel like we've brought this up before.
Yeah,
but I think the prince is like, no, attacking right now is like not what we need to do. What we need to do is we need to go in and talk to Tamsin. Like, we surrender as long as we can talk to the boss.
Yes.
So yeah, they're like, they're under arrest now, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
We cut back over to Tamsin and Anakin. I guess Tamsin has the info that the prince is incarcerated, so
yes,
what he says, like, take him to the throne room, and this is where he's gonna like reveal his big plan that he's taking over the planet and not the Quarren. Like, he's the one in charge. Nasiri is sad. He's like, what do you mean? Like, that's not the plan. Like, Dooku didn't tell me that was the plan. And he's like, Dooku didn't have to tell you that was the plan. Dooku told me that was the plan.
Yeah. I'm like, dude, you're dealing with separatists. You knew what you signed up for.
Yeah.
Like,
so this is where we get our Jedi air bubble fail and Jar Jar's loogie. And then my next note is that there are still 10 minutes left in this episode with a frowning face.
I don't disagree. This did feel like the longest episode.
We could.
Go ahead.
I'm going to kind of power through this stuff because it is
Please
whatever. We cut over to the throne room. Tamsin and the prince have like a discussion. They kind of pit Nasiri against each other. And the prince is talking to Nasiri. The coroner supposedly like under Dooku, right? Because that was like the original plan, but things have changed. And the prince says, you know, like what I'm doing is presenting hope. So we do get that hope theme of Star Wars, which I thought was all right. Like, that's a good thing. That seems to be the fallback when a group of peoples are faced with an insurmountable adversary, right? Like, well, like if we give each other hope, like then we'll give each other what we need to get past the mountain.
I guess. I just don't know. Yeah, I mean, the hope for a better tomorrow overall, like peace, unity, you know. I don't know.
Just hope, buddy.
Like, at least in Rogue One, it was like, oh, yeah, like, we need hope that the Empire will fall. Like, that's a very clear-cut goal, right? Like, you know.
Well, I think it's like, it's hope that, like, the people are feeling hopeless. So giving the people hope will give them the confidence they need to do what needs to be done for the good thing to happen.
To escape the prison that doesn't have any walls?
Yes, and to overthrow the
shark folk?
The shark folk and the droids.
Yes. All right.
But all of that is pretty inconsequential because Tamsin announces that he's going to publicly execute the prince. We cut back over to Anakin and crew. There are some explosions. No, there's not explosions. There's some shocks. There's a bunch of exposition about the execution. We cut back to the prince. Then, like, everyone's united in the same area, finally. So, A-plot and B-plot have merged together. Tamsin orders the execution. Ahsoka says to Anakin, like, hey, just wait. And then the Quarren, what's his name again? Nasiri. Yeah. Apparently the Quarren have like a squid ink thing going on.
Yes,
but it's
they
like
have that ability.
Out their jowls.
I got nothing for you.
I don't know. He like squirts some squid ink out his mouth, and Akbar joins in. There's
let's just say a big battle ensues. Like a big battle ensues. It gets fairly graphic, actually, though, because there's a lot of like on-screen deaths, and we get a few on-screen explosions of bodies. And this all just leads to Lee-Char and Riff Tamsin heading face to face.
Yep.
A grenade, I guess, gets stuck in, or a mine, I guess would be more accurate, like an electric mine gets stuck in Riff Tamsin.
Yeah. I'm not really sure. I thought that like the way that I was reading this as I was watching it is that like this is something that Tamsin had like on his persons, right? Like a belt grenade or whatever you want to say, right? Some type of personal explosive. Prince Lee-Char steals it, and doesn't it switch hands a couple of times? But in the end, Prince Lee-Char uses it to blow up Riff Tamsin.
Yeah, he pulls the jaws.
Yep.
Like, he literally just pulls the jaws. So, this explosive mine knife thingy is in Riff Tamsin, and Lee-Char starts shooting at Riff.
He definitely throws it at him, and it, like, sticks into, like, his shoulder. Because sharks have shoulders.
Right.
And
then Riff Tamsin blows up on screen.
On screen, and you see his decapitated head, like, kind of sinking down towards the bottom of the screen, and there's some explosion damage to it, and there's a lot of pieces, and there's some black charring, and his eyes are white, and his mouth is agape. And
is it a decapitation if if it's more of the body detaching from the head rather than the head detaching from the body?
I don't know. I don't know. Does it matter?
Another existential question for you. No, I just
I'm more interested in the soundization question.
So yeah,
his head is detached.
His head is free floating.
His body has ceased to be.
Right. So yeah, that happens with basically zero tension or zero excitement to me. It was just kind of there. It kind of happened.
I thought it was kind of cool.
I don't know. They just didn't build it up correctly. It was just one of those weird things that sort of just happens to me. You know, I wasn't like invested in it. I wasn't feeling tense. I wasn't feeling nervous. There was no excitement to me on this.
My two notes are shoot dart with satisfying squish noise and floating head.
Yep.
So,
and then after this, we get a coronation scene.
Yeah, everybody celebrates. The prince is made king. He gets to wear this, I called it a shelmet. It is a kind of helmet crown thing made out of a shell, which is kind of interesting because I feel like this would be akin to like during an inauguration, like the president being gifted with the scalp of another living person, because they're like underwater creatures, right?
Yeah.
So they killed another underwater creature, scooped its body out of its little living
The shell
like habitation,
hermit shell sort of thing. Yeah.
and then put it on the head of the king.
But shells can be found, right? Like,
Sure.
you know, so I'm sure it's just the shell that they found and have been passing on for generations, I guess. But yeah.
And then one of my last notes is that there's a whole bunch of underwater clapping.
Yeah, I don't know how this works.
Have you ever tried to clap underwater?
Yes, it's not fun.
I don't think it works very well.
Not like what they're expecting us to believe here.
Yep. So
yeah.
Yeah, that's the end of it. Key loud music.
Indeed. That's all. Coronation happens. Yep.
Do you want to know what my absolute last note is?
No. Go for it.
Just says boo with like 6 O's.
I know.
That's it.
I don't think we've ever gone through an entire podcast episode like any less enthusiastic. Like,
yeah,
I feel like I've just been very monotone this whole time.
I agree with you, and I guess we should apologize for that. Maybe we should have done that back in the beginning. I think we should just jump straight into thumbs up, thumbs down on this.
Yeah, this is just a thumbs down. Like,
yeah, it's not.
Look, it's not the worst episode. It's just not exciting. It's just boring. It's just there.
Yeah.
It goes through these motions, and I don't care about any of these characters. Like, even our main characters, nothing about this episode is making me care for them, because, like, Anakin and Padme, Kit and Jar Jar are mostly imprisoned, and then even Ahsoka is kind of just floating behind Prince Lichar, and Lichar is just saying some shit, you know.
It's like go from here to there, talk about some stuff, go from there to another there.
Yeah.
Pick up the next piece of the puzzle. Anakin's crew is whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's not necessarily some tension there. And all of this could have happened like at the end of one of the last episodes. So Water War and Gungan Attack were the first 2 episodes of season 4, and it was released as a double feature, right? Mm-hmm. I really feel like all 3 of these could have been combined down into that 45-minute mark, and maybe it would have improved the overall a little bit. I really disliked Water War, like, a lot, because I don't like Tamsin and the Karkadons.
I feel like all of this could have been shoved into a 22-minute episode, and I would have lost nothing.
There you go.
Honestly, like 44? Nah, man, like, that's generous even for all of this. Like,
yeah,
this could have been wrapped up so easily. Like, this, it's so stretched out. This, like, even though these preceded, like, these episodes make me feel the way that I felt about the last 2 Hunger Game movies that just were unnecessarily, like, stretched out just because 2 movies was like the trend thanks to Harry Potter, you know?
Yeah, that was not. No.
Yeah, like, no.
I don't
Mockingjay was just so boring. Like, do it if your story supports it, but even then, like, even the last 2 Harry Potter movies still found themselves in, like, a weird sort of pickle there, you know?
So, Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame was originally called, like, Infinity War Part 1, Part 2.
Right.
And Endgame is like 3 fucking hours long.
Mm-hmm.
But that 5 hours worth of storytelling was done well.
Well, also, like, to me, those are 2 separate movies with 2 separate stories and 2 separate arcs.
And they totally are.
Yeah. Whereas for Mockingjay Part 1, it's all set up. There's all set up. There's no close to that arc. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
standalone fucking story, right?
Right.
So instead of like one really good movie, we got two really boring, mediocre films, right?
Yep.
Which is super disappointing because I thought Catching Fire was even better than the book. Like, I thought that movie was great. Like, there's a lot of tension. It was well done. It was exciting, especially where I found Hunger Games to be an okay movie, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But Catching Fire, like, I just thought that book was great. Or the movie was great. I didn't like Mockingjay the book, and I was hoping with the momentum of Catching Fire that they would be able to carry that on, but nope. Split it into two, and we're just gonna watch them walking around talking about shit. And then by the time you get to Mockingjay Part 2, who cares? That's how I felt. Like, you can't just jump into the action. Like, yes, we got the setup in the last movie, but that's not how like this naturally works out when you have a big break like that, you know?
Right.
So, Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows still kind of runs into this problem a little bit, but they found a really good way to close part 1 out. Like, there's a close to the arc there, you know? It's not perfect. It just... Mockingjay was just like a cut to black, and I'm just like, fuck. Like, this is just obnoxious. That's basically how I feel about this 3 arc here.
Yeah. I would say my opinion is that overall, the Water War arc is not a great start to the season.
Mm-mm.
And Prisoners is an even less adequate finish to that 3-part arc.
Yeah.
So I think you summed it up well in saying that this is just kind of boring. This one is not my favorite.
Yeah, like it's really upsetting because I think I've said it in the previous 2 episodes too. The change in scenery should have allowed them to kind of...
It had potential.
Have some fun. Yeah, it had potential. Yes, like they're still floating around like they would in space, but you could still have fun with like the difference in physics of underwater and the fact that instead of like flying in spaceships, now they're free floating bodies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Underwater battles, right?
This is almost like an ill-defined high school play.
Yeah.
Where the scenery changes aren't great. Like, you know, there is no definition to where anything is. It just kind of is where you are at the moment. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you're elsewhere, ? Mm-hmm. And then everything kind of ties in together at the end. And that's, you know, you're expected to push, I guess, your imagination further, but you know, didn't work for me. I've been trying to think of some positive things about this episode. Can't really think of any. So
to me, it was just the only positive thing I have is I like the underwater knife mine thing that happened.
Okay.
That just was visually different, at least. Like when somebody exploded and they just bits and pieces were just kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, I'll go with that. There was definitely kind of the chum in the water.
Yeah, for a family-friendly show, you know, to get to season 4 and we finally get some.
Okay. Well,
like,
we'll end on that
chum.
positive note. I don't think we need to speculate, but I wonder if moving forward through season 4, we're going to see some more mature things like depth on screen.
Right.
And beyond. So
let's just see if we can just keep building on that.
Yeah, we'll build on that hope, Lorenzo.
Hope, man. Hope. So next week is Shadow Warrior, correct? Yeah.
That is correct.
All right. What else we got?
So yeah, you know, I mean, the normal shouts out to Kevin on Twitter at they call me KDub. Thanks, buddy, for putting together our hero pose for the show. And shouts out to Lindsay as well. StrangeFantasyMusic@gmail.com. If you want to get in touch with us and let us know how great Water War was, or let us know that you agree, whatever it may be, head on over to notthenerds.com. We've had a little update to that, so might look a little bit different, but down at the bottom still has all of our social media links, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and beyond. So I would say until next week with Shadow Warrior, I've been Kevin.
Lorenzo Fon here.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.
Bye-bye.